So, again, there is here stomach mucosal layer, which is combined submucosal lamina muscularis. Later, it's interrupting lamina muscularis media, and there is a huge ulceration, interruption in the integrity of mucosal layer, which we mark as ulceration. That is chronic active stomach ulcer, if you will, or chronic exacerbated. It is chronic because there's lots of chronic infiltrate that we can observe here in the ulcerative layers. Also, we can observe lots of granulation tissue, which is majorly the tissue of repair. It's marked best here. You can see small newly formed vessels, huge clusters of lymphocytes, some portions of macrophages here, which are at the form of epithelioid cells. And further, after the granulation tissue, we can observe fibrous tissue strands at the form of demarcation of the stomach ulcer. The ulcer itself is having edges, margins, and it's having a base of the ulcer. The base is having a couple of layers. Some desquamated epithelium might be observed inside at the form of tissue debris. Later, we can observe some. What type of necrosis is that? Take a look at it. Amorphous, pinkish, looking like a specific protein, but it's actually a combination of two. What type of necrosis is observed at the base of the ulcer, the stomach ulcer? What is this type of necrosis? What is the type of necrosis at the base of the stomach ulcer? Observe it well here. Fibrinoid, great. How is it formed? What do we need as a condition for fibrinoid necrosis to be formed? Take a look at it very well. It's marked here. We need what? Condition of increased acidity to form fibrinoid necrosis and damage of the layers of the mucosas here in the stomach. Then we'll have escape from the vessels of fibrinogen, which turns to fibrin and contacts with the collagen in the submucosal layers so that it will form a specific substance known as fibrinoid. It's marked as something looking like fibrin because it's having the same abilities to be colored by PTAH, but it's not fibrin. It's fibrinoid as a result of combination of acid, collagen, and fibrinogen. Finally, what we observe here would be this type of amorphous substance, which later continues with some small amount of acute inflammatory infiltrate. You can take a look at the neutrophils here, and majorly some which could be found inside desquamated. They're looking lobulated with a couple of nuclei combined together. And later, This tissue continues to what? What is this type of tissue that we're observing here? This is granulation tissue, the repair tissue, which is positioned under the fibrinoid necrosis. What we also observe here would be clusters of macrophages. Take a look at these here, epithelioid cells, mixed with polymorphonuclears, which are the neutrophils, mixed with lymphocytes, which are here, mixed with newly formed thin-walled vessels, which are seen here as small openings. Take a look at this place here and here. All of these components of the granulation tissue, which is marked as a different amount around the stomach ulcer. Do you see it? Again, you lost it. Okay, I will share it again. Okay, and what else? Now let's speak about the margins of the stomach ulcer. What do we expect to see here? This is stomach mucosal layer. These are remnants of the glands in the chorion, made of chief and parietal cells. And here we have some inflammatory infiltrate, which is demarcated, especially in the submucosal layer, which is made of many lymphocytes combined together. Some hyperemia, some artificial hemorrhages here. We mark these as circulatory changes. And all of these are speaking about the picture of what we've just observed in the previous slide, which is actually what? Chronic gastritis. So again, a marked gland with hyperplasia on the inside. Now, what you're going to be asked here on your exam is the layers of the stomach ulcer with the margins, with the base. Also, what is in the base as structures of cells. And what could be the complications of the stomach ulcer? Can you think of a couple of complications of a stomach ulcer and count it? Bleeding, great. Another. Perforation, great. Another. Yeah, anemia, that is due to bleeding. What is this word? Penetration. Yeah, thank you, Ashmi. What does that mean? Into another organ. Which organ that might be? Yes, another. Well, spleen is a little bit further aside, but why not in some disposition of stomach? Yeah, sometimes it could happen. Also, yes, majorly in the colon. Which colon? Which part of the colon? Transversum, thank you. So also, what other type of change we could expect from an ulcer to happen? Since it's a place with constant inflammation, yes, scarring and fibrosis, yes, that's also a complication which should be considered, and it's very significant because it's closing. Sometimes even two ulcers combined together as kissing ulcers, as I mentioned to you in the practical, could close the lumen of the stomach so that they could eventually give some difficulties in lysis of food and further passage of food. What else can we consider as something important? What is it here in the edges and the margins of the ulcer? What process we mentioned? there is chronic gastritis. Okay? So, by this chronic gastritis and this constant inflammation here at the margins, what could happen? Change of epithelium. Yes, metaplasia, eventually dysplasia, and finally, tumor. Cancer could start from an ulcer, from the margins of an ulcer. Never forget this. It's called ulcus cancer. So, when we consider a process of ulceration, never forget that the margins are the most important thing there around the ulceration. Of course, the ulceration itself, when it's penetrating and perforating, could be life threatening. Also, the margins are important. That is why when an endoscopist observes an ulcer, he or she will take a biopsy from the margins to take a look at the condition of the surrounding mucosal layer and check out for malignancy, which is very important for your future practice. Do you have any questions about this slide?